Hello. I was trying several times to record something about future of work, but I was never be able to kind of put all of the thoughts in a systematic manner. So I just decided to speak with you as I sometimes speak with some of my friends when I share my feelings and my projections and my forecasts with them. So today I want to speak about future of work and especially for knowledge workers, especially in terms of AI and kind of the whole social contracts that we have for the work. So something that it really inspired me to talk about this is hiring myself. So whenever I hire designers, it's just such a weird dynamic right now when there is a lot of weird questions that should be asked and so weird dynamics and weird kind of social contracts that everyone is following. And I know that most of people have quite similar kind of expectations from working conditions or working environments. Like job seekers want as much money as possible uh, for as great work as possible. So I definitely know that people want to feel fulfilled, and companies want to squeeze as much productivity from those talents as possible. So whenever they have some requests or some problems in their own kind of corporate environment that they want to solve, they expect people to solve that problem and then compensate them exact that amount of money that those people requested, not more. I think that both sides kind of understand the game of each other. So, for example, job seekers understand how company is paying them, and company understands what job seekers want. But eventually, none of them actually talks about this on the workplace. Good example of this might be full-time work, for example, the whole concept of hiring someone to work without any term date, right? Without any deadline. What I'm saying is that, for example, if company just regularly hires a designer, there is this weird dynamic where a company kind of expect the designer to work like indefinitely there, like for 40 or 50 years, and then the person actually, like by signing up indefinite contract with them, kind of should always give this kind of good attitudes and impression, like they are not going anywhere from this company and they enjoy it all the time. I feel maybe if it's me overcomplicating something, but it feels to me that it's like a little bit of lies from both sides, because company, like especially in recent years, we saw a couple of major layoffs happening. So we definitely know that hiring someone for full time doesn't mean any security. So company can actually let you go at any time if they want, and there is always some kind of legal or illegal like way to solve with that. Even like if your company wasn't generous enough to give like some exit package, you will still kind of they will find a way to kind of evade that using like declaring bankruptcy and then closing the company and kind of hiding away, or just making the like judge process, law process as long as possible. So there are so many ways to avoid that I'm not sure that full time job gives as much security as it used to give like decades ago, right? When when people were applying to full-time job, it felt like a real secure place. And the same comes for companies and job seekers, right? You can't expect people to work 40 years for you, because it's going to be almost weird or really kind of an exceptional time and place and person and company if they will be able to work together for such a long time. Usually, like even the whole system is designed against those kind of relationships, because whenever people like company hires someone new, they often get overcompensated in comparison to those people who were loyal for many years. So it feels like both parties can quit this kind of relationship at any time, but both parties are actually should play good guys or like playing along all the time until that radical event happens. And this is weird for me, because it feels like those like bad marriages where like both people pretend to be happy rather than being happy themselves. So it's kind of a little bit weird that we can't be like very straight up front. For example, whenever like we're hiring someone, we can't ask like for how many years are you going to stick here. Of course you can ask it, probably, I don't know like if it's legally right or not, but probably like it's just such a vital question because no one can actually answer it honestly in some way if you think about it, because people are going to always say like overestimate their time. So for example, I noticed that if I'm going to ask this question, people who are planning to stay for 1 year, they will say they're staying for 3 years, and people who are planning to stay for 3 years, they're going to say like 5 or 10 or something like that. So it's kind of weird that we're not actually being honest with each other about work-term relationships, although like it's kind of understandable why work relationships are right now span like of 1 year or 3 years, but never quite longer than that. So it's definitely interesting in perspective of how the future of work begins to take shape and how AI impacts that as well. So one of the radical thoughts that I had is actually, what if we would eliminate the full-time work altogether? Like, why should we make this deal if we know that if both parties know that it's not going to work indefinitely? What if there's going to be some deadline? For example, people are going to sign contracts for 6 months or for 12 months, and then both sides are going to revisit it. And for example, 1 month before the deadline, both sides can come up and say like, okay, this is how much like money I want to make right now. This is how much my job has changed. This is how what happens. Because right now, if you think about it, again, taking both sides, right? Companies, like every time I hear that companies are unsatisfied with the productivity of workers, and there's always some kind of reason for that, like remote work, or Gen Z doesn't like to work, or everyone doesn't like to do something hard nowadays, and so on and so on. And then other side is like of job seekers and people who are actually putting work. They're also not really benefiting from the system, because they're saying, oh, there is a lot of stupid work and I have to pretend that I'm working instead of working on some meaningful things. And my manager is probably incompetent. And whenever I was loyal for a couple of years, my company still pays someone new higher salary than to myself, although I hold more knowledge and I'm here and I probably made more like effort to make this work, but why I don't earn as much as those new people who come in. So it's definitely something interesting here, because no one in the system seems to be happy. No one in this system like really says like, oh, I'm actually bending the system towards myself because of how great benefits I'm receiving from this. Everyone are unsatisfied whenever I ask anyone. Of course, there are some exceptions. Of course, generally the market works. I wouldn't be pessimistic about it. This social contract of full-time work works, but it still feels like it works based on lies in some ways, which is weird. So another part which is interesting to me is how bad our job descriptions are and job roles as well. Like the mobility of knowledge workers inside of the company is really weird. It's like almost very challenging to switch teams or switch challenges or to renegotiate your your compensation or your day-to-day duties. And most of them, I think, it's not directly tied, but one of the symptoms of really poor job descriptions. Like if you go to, for example, ChatGPT right now and ask it to write a job description, it will give you the same bad result as you would just go and copy from competitor, like the job description you want. Something that I started doing is all of the job descriptions that I make and I open, I always write them from my heart. So basically, I'm just laying down the challenge of what the person is going to work on. I'm trying to write down the context in which we're working. I'm trying to kind of give some window like into what the schedule would look like and so on and so on. But this is rare. Like most of the times, job descriptions are like those tweets to actual work. You only have like one page of information for stuff that is going to take like 40 hours minimum of your attention during the week. And this is really, really weird because in my mind, job descriptions have to have more information inside of them about the future schedule, the people who are going to impact your work, the level of mobility inside of the company, the products that you are going to work on, the challenges that you might face, the challenges where you probably will have to learn something instead of like doing something. So, and all of this information is not mentioned anywhere. So like sometimes like great managers are mentioning it, or what I noticed is whenever like I get some of the offers for like high executive roles, sometimes recruiters are actually learning and finding this out and then transferring this information to me in form of presentation. But it's really, really rare to make this for all of the workforce. Oh, and I would say like, oh, it's okay, it's like probably a supply and demand issue, so it's not worth to make such a kind of effort for all of the positions. But then on the other side, if you want to find a developer or designers, major companies are already looking at the terms of like 6 months or 12 months to hire someone. So maybe there isn't like a reason to make an effort and make the position more appealing and kind of spend more effort on doing so. So right now I'm building a new tool which is called Fits, and the idea of it is to actually redesign the whole job description from the ground up. So I'm using kind of I make it more interactive and I make it a little bit more interesting for job seekers. So whenever they would kind of explore the job, they would actually get more understanding of what it actually evades for them. Because right now it feels like you're buying something, but they don't have a prices on the site, and you have to write them a personal message and ask about the price of the item, which everyone hates. No one likes that. But that's how job descriptions were working for the past, I don't know, century, I guess. So right now it's really interesting, how can we redesign it using our modern technology? What if it's not only about people kind of auto recording the responses to the questions on the interview, right? It's not what makes it interactive. What makes it more interactive is, for example, choosing your level of risk, or for how many years you want to stay at this company. Maybe your compensation will based on this, right? And maybe you can get some more interesting deals or equity based on your responses. Maybe it's not about your level of competences right now, but about your level of kind of delivering and being able to learn on the workplace. Because again, right now, the same as job descriptions are bad, I think resumes are bad. This is just a really bad screenshot of your history and kind of your past relationships. But just take a moment to understand how many stuff happened in your past jobs, how many relationships were formed, how many challenges you solved. It's not just like 2 case studies of the project that you were working on. No, there was like the whole chemistry. Your whole life was around that. It's like saying, yeah, I was like 2 years in marriage, and here is like two trips that we took during that time. It's impossible to gather in just like 2 articles about your job, or more than that in resumes. It takes like 5 lines of achievements or something. This would be a weird way to describe marriage, and this is a really weird way to describe job, to be honest, because there is so much things that happening, and it's very hard to kind of convey this through just a list of text. Of course, it's possible, and for great storytellers, they can do that, but most of the time it doesn't. It actually speaks to the greatness of potential fit. When people are just bragging without any kind of direction on what to brag on, it just gets bad fits. It's not because the bragging is bad, but because it is not personalized to that position, right? So when I think about interactive resumes and interactive job positions, I think there should be something inside of them where it kind of selection the right responses to the right questions. Because right now, for example, I see that many founders and managers and even workers have some traumas about past works, right? They, for example, say, oh, okay, I will never like work with for CEO who is like really into podcasts because they always get with some crazy ideas. I'm joking right now, but this is an example. And somehow like the founder should be able to respond that like, yeah, I'm listening to this in this podcast, or I'm not listening, that's why we're a good fit. Of course, I'm joking right here, but what about software? What about principles of building together? What about quality over speed? Are we aligned on these issues? Are we good, like, are we even on the same page? And it feels like modern job descriptions and resumes are actually against that, because they're mentioning everything but this, but your personal priorities, and but how you want to shape your work day to day. So I don't know how to finish this video, to be honest. I'm posting right now the progress of fits in my. I will post more on my Twitter and on my email list, and I want to onboard a couple of companies that are going to try to use fits for their own purposes. So if someone is hiring designers right now, I would love to collaborate together and kind of build more interactive way of hiring people, and hopefully it will lead to less candidates to review, but to a better quality of candidates coming in. So that's my personal kind of goals to in these projects. That's kind of the metrics I'm looking for. If someone is interested, let me know, and I'm going to make an onboarding call for us. But yeah, let me know what do you think about the future of work. Let me know do you think AI is going to kind of have an impact on resumes instead of just writing more text. Like, how can it probably use kind of some reasoning and categorization and summarization to make resumes more useful for companies, and the same for job descriptions. Really curious to hear your thoughts, and write me please if this topic interests you in any way. Bye bye.